John Dudley leaves PSE. Big news story for the day. So the other day, John Dudley did a post on social media saying he's leaving PSE because there's been change of ownership of PSE, change of vision, and his contract has not been renewed. So I want to talk about John Dudley and how it impacts my sales, his bows, and just it's a flavour of social media. So first off, John Dudley has his own brand. Okay, so he buys products, brands it John Dudley, so Carter Release Aids or whatever the product is, brands it John Dudley and then sells it. So basically making money for himself, a brand. Okay, that's the way I see John. And he could say, well, actually I designed the products and all that. That's fine, I accept all that, right? So he's got his brand. For me as a consumer or as a dealer, it's like, well, can I get access to that brand? And is it big? Do consumers want it? So in some cases, I don't have access to John Dudley's products. Okay? It's purely on his website. That's all that's available. So a few years ago, John Dudley did a podcast with Pete Shepley from PSE and spoke about PSE and spoke about stuff. Following that interview, Pete Shepley signed him for PSE and made bows and helped design bows for PSE. And John then promoted PSE. So I want to talk about that. So first off, when John signed up to PSE, it was a thing for me, for sales. His bows that he made, that he branded, sold. And when I say they sold, they were top-end products. And yes, they had the PSE Drive or the Embark. I sold probably around 10 of them. Okay, so, but there was definitely demand for them. But that demand has tapered away with time. And I'm going to say part of that was marketing, and part of it was probably John not pushing the products. Part of it would have been that PSE produced bows for Joe Rogan, but then didn't make the bow which Joe Rogan made. And that's always, in my view, a big, big problem. And PSE used to do this in the past. They used to make bows specifically for pro shooters, and then it wasn't available to the general consumer. So the general consumer will say, well, they're having success with that bow, but that bow's not available. Right. So this is the bow that John Dudley put his name to. They changed the cable guard and some other minor bits about it. Basically, they made the bow not as tunable on the cable guard. And I didn't think it was a big deal, and John may think it was a big deal, and consumers may think it's a big deal, and that's okay. So this has a couple of things for me, a couple of impacts. So John went back to Hoyt. This is where he became famous, because he's got his circle of friends who are famous with Hoyt, Cameron Hames and Joe Rogan. And that then creates a following among hunters to buy a Hoyt because it is accurate, it's durable, and this is what wealthy people shoot. Okay, so, and I think that's a good move for Hoyt. I think it's a really good move. I don't know how much Hoyt's paying to having John back, but I think it's a good move. It puts all their prize stallions in the one ring, so to speak. I don't know how much it cost to have John back, but it's probably a good thing for Hoyt. And as far as social media is concerned, John is definitely high profile. Right, so for PSE, the fact that John left on, I'm going to say, questionable terms, that his contract wasn't renewed and there had been no discussion about the contract, and the fact that he openly stated that, I think was a big move, because I think it's a career limiting move, and John's probably signed a great contract from it. But I think when you sign good contracts with companies and then when you leave on bad notes, you generally don't want to highlight that, because it was a good contract and you want to go to a better contract. and crapping on your company when you leave is not a good look. Okay, that's just my view, and I fully understand where John is coming from. I just don't know if it's a good look. And I don't know the impact it will have for Hoyt. So do I expect that more people will want to buy Hoyts because John is shooting a Hoyt? I don't. I don't think that, and that's not me having a go at John, and I know John has lots of followers. I just think Hoyt already has a reputation as a bow, and I don't think it will affect the sales of the PSE bow, because these are the two bows. I think they're in different markets. I think people buy PSEs because they're very light, and I think people buy Hoyts because of the look, and it's a Hoyt. Okay? So I think people buy bows for different reasons. And whether it's people buy Bowtech and Elite for tunability and ease of setup, or whatever the reason is, they buy them for different reasons. So I think John going back to Hoyt is a good thing for Hoyt. And I think it's probably not great the way it was left. But look, it all creates good social media and it creates points of interest and it gets people talking. And if people are talking about your product, if people are talking about you, if people are talking about your brand, that is what you want. So the thing I want to see now is what bow Hoyt come up with for John Dudley and how they use John Dudley to promote their product, how it affects Cameron Haynes. Will it have any impact on Joe Rogan? Will there be a Joe Rogan podcast where John Dudley is on it? All that sort of stuff is what I'm interested to see. So anyway, that's my view. John Dudley leaving PSE for Hoyt, and what impact I think it will make, and how it was done and how it was promoted. But I do find it interesting that the first thing the owner did of PSE when he joined PSE was go and visit John Dudley. It was the first video he did, first photos he took of meeting John Dudley. The first thing he did, I haven't spoken to the new owner of PSE. And at one stage, I was the biggest PSE dealer in the world. I'm no longer that. So, I understand why I'm not getting spoken to now, but back then. But yes, and then nothing. Like, I haven't seen a post from the owner. There's been nothing. It's just silence. So I find that kind of interesting as well. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. I'll be interested to see if the owner of PSE has any thoughts about losing John Dudley, or whether he thought that John Dudley was not worth the money they were paying for John Dudley, which I think is probably the case, but the silence is deafening. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. I'm Stephen Ham from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching.